Good morning. This is an in-service on differentiated instruction. My name is Becky Windholtz, and this is with Fort Hays State University, TESP 302 for spring 2018. So what is differentiated instruction? Well, it's kind of the mix-up in the classroom, or change the classroom style to what it was 15, 20, 30, 50 years ago. Changing the style of the curriculum, but keeping the curriculum to meet the standards. Changing your instruction, the way you can present the material to best maximize the learning for all students. It sounds challenging, and it kind of is, but once you get the hang of it, it really is a neat way for both the teacher and the student to continue to learn the best they can. Okay, so you have a classroom, and if a teacher is teaching to an entire classroom, you have a third of your students who will know what you're teaching. You will have a third who will eventually get what you are teaching. They'll understand it eventually. And then you have a third who won't understand a thing, simply because that is not how they can learn the material. Differentiated instruction is not centered around the teacher. It is centered around the students. Students learn in different ways, so if we can reach each student and help them learn how they're going to learn, we can best meet their needs for them. Each student is capable of learning, just not in the same way. I think that being centered around each student makes them feel like they can do it. If you just teach to a crowd and those that don't care aren't going to care, they're going to continue to not pay attention, to not understand it, and become frustrated, and eventually probably drop out of school. And we don't want that. Like I said, we have to keep those grade level standards that are expected. But at the same time, we can address those students' needs and differences in different ways, whether it be finding a book that helps them understand the material, or a handout that maybe would spell it out a little better. These things happen in differentiated instruction. So how do teachers differentiate instruction in their classrooms? With a variety of materials. Like I said, some students may prefer a book to be presented the material on. Others may be more audio learners. They may hear it better, finding an app that could present it better, finding different ways to get to their core to understand that subject or that material. Lots of different things available with our World Wide Web nowadays. Use those resources. Teachers also offer several assignment choices. Some, when it comes time to test, may need it read aloud. They may need a quiet atmosphere. So if we offer, the written test, or we offer an audio test, as long as we have somebody, whether it be the teacher or a para or somebody, to kind of oversee to make sure that they are getting the assignment or the test material the best way they can understand it. Many different ways. Like materials, the assignments are the same way. Many resources available to use in our classrooms. With those audio learners, standing up in front of them, lecturing them, it's going to put them to sleep. They're not going to care. Some can just simply go through school easy peasy, have no problems. But more than not, you're going to have those students who need to get in and get their hands dirty, so to speak. Hands-on learning is what's best for some. Modeling, showing them how it is done, and then they repeat it, using those visual ways to help them understand to the best ability. I think students love hands-on, even those that don't mind the lecture. Getting involved in doing it They're going to learn it better, retain it better, and simply understand it better. So how do we keep this differentiated instruction going? How do we know what's working? How do we know what's not? We have these ongoing formative assessments, whether those be the surveys that we send out or simply taking the material that we've given them and kind of evaluate it as an educator. Go, oh, maybe that didn't work so good. Or, that worked really well. Let's keep that in mind for next year. It's simply kind of a learn and go process for both the student and the teacher. And that may seem unfair, using these children as trials, but really if they're learning anything, they're going to adapt. They're going to learn what works best for them with trial and error, just like the teacher. Trial and error. I think we're getting further than we've ever been with education in this aspect, and I think we can continue to grow and really give everyone that education that they deserve. Okay, so if we want to give a fair education, how do we do that? We simply don't say, oh, well, they got to do this, they didn't. We find those things that help those students that are going to soar in the classroom continue to soar and not be held back from those students that aren't understanding it. It's not fair, so to speak, that those smart students, those smart's not the word, those very intelligent kids that just seem to always probably know more than the teachers most of the time, they be held back because, oh, wait, class, we have to stop because, we have several not understanding it. And we don't want to bring attention to that. We don't want to make those that don't understand feel like they're never going to understand. And we don't want those that are soaring to feel like, oh, I'm never going to be what I need to be. So being fair just means giving them the best that they can, the best materials and resources for their learning so they can be fair in their education. And with success, we discover that by not simply because they're soaring, but because they are doing the best they can with what they've been given. And we want to give them the best opportunity available. So Albert Einstein once said, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a ladder, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. How true is that? If those students are expected to, those that are struggling are expected to keep up with those that are soaring, they're going to just keep believing that they are stupid. They're going to keep believing, I'm never going to get this, I can't do it. They're going to get frustrated and become dropouts. And so if we focus on getting those that are struggling the resources that they need, we can help them feel like, oh, I'm soaring. I am doing great. And here's another funny one. So a class of animals. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Just like a classroom, we can't expect all students to be able to do one thing in the same way. We can't expect a fish to climb a tree. We can't expect an elephant to climb a tree. These things happen so often in our classroom. They're not going to be able to do things the same way. We have to find those directions and help guide those children to get it, to understand that I can climb this tree. This is what I need to climb this tree. So I found those cartoons or that saying pretty cute. So how do teachers prepare students in their classroom for differentiated instruction? Well, you'll see here, we set up a classroom. Back 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would see just a desk, a desk, a desk, a desk, and a chair, a chair, a chair, a chair. Now we've got group tables. Here we can take students, break down to an understanding level that they can do the assignments. A teacher would sit here. We could have several different discussions with just a small group. While maybe another group can be over here without maybe necessarily a teacher present. They may be working on an art project or, modeling other students. Some of those that are soaring in class may be able to help and feel like they're teaching, because students do learn from each other. So I think these new ways to set up a classroom are great. A reading rug, students, how often do you want to sit at a desk? I don't like to sit at a desk all day. Neither do the students. So finding different ways to keep their attention, keep that that drive, that want to learn, by laying a reading rug down. It gets them comfortable and they will continue to learn. Okay, what does differentiated instruction look like in the classroom? Well, we want to keep it simple. Start with one subject, really simple to begin with, and always build from that. So it may be just dividing into a small group and using, for math, for example, use a dry erase board, or they've got these circles that you can write with dry erase markers, and it could be used for spelling, whatever, these little circles that are laminated, and you can do the math problem or the spelling word right there in that group horseshoe table, and really let the kids get involved with their learning instead of just sit there and watch. Limit the activity. We don't want to overwhelm the students by any means, but we can limit the activity, and we don't want to focus a lot as educators with our time because we don't have a lot of time. So just keeping it simple to begin with and build from there. Okay, assign work based on the student's readiness. Again, we want to not overwhelm the students. We want to keep them involved, make them feel like, oh, I can do this. And provides the support for those that struggle, whether it be, at the horseshoe table, or get down on the reading rug, as a student is reading, and, prepare the other class for their activities, and keep everyone learning and interested, and being less distraction from those that are learning other things at different pace. And then we want to keep those surveys so we know what's working and what's not. Whether we take a test and use it next year as a pre-test to kind of see what we need to build off of. These are some little gadgets that are used in the classroom. Here's my circular dry erase thing I was talking about. And then these are bouncy bands, and kids get very fidgety. So by having these on their chairs, there was a study that, these bouncy bands help them swing their feet. So, their feet are busy, so then their minds can be focused on the learning. Really kind of a cool thing there. Just, you'll see all kinds of resources in the classroom. And we can find their best growth, their best motivation, their best efficiency through just focusing on the content we give them, the process it's given, the product that we're using. Each student's readiness is going to develop by us. Like, we have to be observers. We have to understand, are they ready for this? Does this interest them? In the farming community, we have students that simply may only want to farm. I've dealt with some of those students myself. I don't need school. I just want to be a farmer. So integrate some of those farming activities, really draw their attention. And why are these not examples of differentiated instruction? Well, we can't just deliver instruction primarily by lecturing. That's boring. And group students at the beginning of the year based on previous year's achievement test scores, can't do that. Teachers or students learn at their own level. And if we expect them to be here and they're not quite here, that's a disadvantage to them. Really monitoring all the time, continue throughout the year, monitor them. They may really be soaring in math. Keep pushing them to soar. They may be struggling in reading. So let's, focus on, maybe come with this group today. We'll learn best in that environment. So it's really kind of a learn as you go through the year. And it's a challenge, but it's definitely worth it to give those kids the best that they deserve. And then obviously we don't give bonus points for classroom participation because every student is participating. It just may not be at the same level. So just keeping them interested. Really integrate this differentiated instruction into your classroom and you will see success. Thank you. Again, my name is Becky Windholtz. I can be reached at rlwindholtz2@mail.fhsu.edu. Thank you.